Most of the sounds we make aren't for conveying data. They are a form of social grooming. Think of the morning hello to a coworker, or the nice weather comment to a stranger. This is phatic communication, a concept introduced by anthropologist Bronislaw Malinowski. It's the human equivalent of primates picking fleas off each other. It doesn't transfer information, it reinforces social bonds and confirms that the channel of communication is, in fact, open. We are constantly pinging our network, ensuring the connections are live, that we are part of the group. So what happens when one node in that network decides to stop transmitting? The decision to remain silent is not a passive act. It is an active, continuous process of inhibition. Every impulse to comment, to ask, to interject must be caught and suppressed. This task falls to your brain's prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function. It's the same region that stops you from eating a second piece of cake or saying something inappropriate. For a week, this neurological muscle is in a state of constant exertion. Broca's area, the brain's speech production center, might formulate a response, but the prefrontal cortex acts as a gatekeeper, shutting down the signal before it reaches your larynx. You are essentially holding a neurological door closed against a constant stream of social instinct. Human conversation operates on a deeply ingrained algorithm of reciprocity. I speak, then you speak. Your silence breaks this code. It creates a social vacuum that others feel compelled to fill. You will notice people start talking more, nervously narrating their actions or thinking out loud, as if to compensate for your lack of output. This is the unanswered bid phenomenon, studied by relationship researcher John Gottman. A bid for connection is made, and when it's met with silence, the system registers an error. You become a ghost at the table. Your presence felt more strongly through your absence of sound. The awkwardness isn't personal. It's a systemic response to a broken protocol. When the external speaker is turned off, where does all that language go? It doesn't simply vanish. Your inner monologue, the silent conversation you have with yourself, can become dramatically more pronounced. Some neuroscientists propose that internal speech is essentially a simulation of external speech, using many of the same neural pathways, just without the final motor command. By blocking that final command, you might find your inner world becomes more structured, more novelistic. Thoughts that would have been fleetingly expressed and forgotten are now captured, examined, and cataloged internally. You are no longer performing your thoughts for others, you are curating them for yourself. The brain is an efficiency machine. The cognitive resources typically reserved for planning your next sentence, for monitoring your own speech, and for predicting conversational turns are now unemployed. So the brain reallocates them. You don't just listen better, your brain begins to process a wider bandwidth of nonverbal data. The subtle shift in vocal prosody that indicates uncertainty, the micro-expression of contempt that flashes for a fraction of a second, the way someone's posture changes when a certain topic is raised. These signals were always there, but they were noise filtered out by the much louder signal of your own impending speech. Your silence doesn't just make you a quiet observer, it turns you into a high-fidelity social sensor. Eventually, someone will ask you a direct question. Your rule allows you to speak. And this moment is revelatory. When speech is a scarce resource, every word is imbued with immense weight. You will find yourself choosing words with a precision you rarely use. The throwaway phrases, the filler words, the rambling sentences, they all disappear. Your response is distilled, intentional. This is because the cognitive load of formulating speech is now front and center, not running in the background. Each utterance is a significant event, a conscious decision to expend a valuable token. The triviality of everyday chatter becomes glaringly apparent when contrasted with the deliberate act of a chosen response. How much of your personality is defined by your spontaneous interjections, your jokes, your unsolicited opinions? We perform our identity constantly through speech. When you stop this performance, a strange thing happens. The you that exists in the minds of others begins to fade, replaced by a projection of their own. You become a screen. But more profoundly, the you that you perform for yourself also quiets down. Without the constant reinforcement of speaking your identity into existence, you are left with a more fundamental state of being, the observer. It's a taste of the distinction between the self that thinks and acts and the self that is simply aware. For a week, you stop being a character and simply become the audience. The experiment ends. You can speak freely, but you don't go back to the way you were, not immediately. The brain has spent a week strengthening the neural pathways for inhibition and observational analysis. You will find a new pause between thought and speech, a deliberation gap. You will notice the sheer volume of noise in most conversations. The urge to speak for the sake of filling silence is lessened. You have recalibrated your social baseline. You haven't just conducted a social experiment. You've temporarily rewired your own communication protocols, and traces of that new code remain, running quietly in the background long after the silence is broken. Monotony has grown fast. Nearly 2,700 people have watched in the last few weeks, yet less than 0.03% are subscribed. It would mean a lot if you joined by hitting subscribe. And again, thanks for watching.